Our anime begins with a boy named Yuto, a high school student who is introverted, fed up with people, and doesn't like to interact with others. He goes to school and sits in class, extremely bored, wishing for the school day to end by any means. At school, he hears about a very beautiful and athletic girl named Shindo. All the boys at school are infatuated with her and want to talk to her, but of course, she ignores them. The school day ends, and Yuto returns home, where he sits and plays video games on his computer, the only thing that makes him happy. However, next to him is a picture of his friends who drifted apart, and whenever he looks at it, he gets upset again. The next day at school, Yuto is responsible for cleaning the classroom and is supposed to stand by the door after the school day ends. However, he notices Shindo talking to another girl named Kozue. He is very surprised because the two of them were never friends before. In fact, Shindo is known for her love of sports and school activities, while Kozue is an introverted girl who often skips school. Suddenly, the two girls look at him, and he quickly goes back to cleaning the board. The teacher then enters and scolds Yuto for not participating in any sports or caring about his studies, telling him he needs to do better. While the teacher is talking, the two girls are still looking at him, focusing on him. After the teacher leaves, Yuto was about to tell them that he was the one assigned to lock the door today, and was about to leave. But when he looks, he is shocked to see that they haven't left the classroom. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound inside the classroom, and everything around him changes. Strange things start happening to his body, and he transforms into a small, weak creature. He finds himself in the sky, falling to the ground and landing in a lake. In front of him, a group of snake-like monsters attack him. He doesn't understand what's happening and quickly tries to get out of the lake. Suddenly, he sees Kozue and Shindo calling out to him, looking very happy and saying, "You finally made it." When he gets out of the lake, he asks them, "What's going on? Where am I? What is this strange place?" Shindo tells him, "The questions don't matter right now. What's important is that a strange person will appear behind you soon, and his head will be cut off. Don't be afraid of him. Just listen to what he says." Suddenly, Yuto sees someone behind him, and when he looks, he sees a person with a severed head. This person tells him, "I'll tell you the rules of the game. You and your teammates are required to complete certain tasks in this game. The task required of you right now is to fulfill the village chief's request within 14 days. If the time runs out and you haven't completed the task, all of you will die. The monsters in this world are waiting to kill you." Yuto says, "I don't understand anything." Then Shindo hits him and says, "Just read the instructions." The person with the severed head continues, "You are required to complete a series of tasks. The two girls with you have already completed 2 tasks, and you are supposed to complete the 3rd task. Every time you complete a task, a new person will join your team until you reach the final task, and there will be 10 of you in total. Each of you will transform and have a specific role, like Shindo, who has become the wind sorceress, and Kozue, who has become the sword fighter. You also need to complete your task to find out your role." The person then spins a wheel of fortune, and the arrow lands on the word farmer, which becomes Yuto's role. He is disappointed because he is supposed to start from scratch and work his way up to becoming a warrior. His clothes change into farmer's attire, and he asks them, "What's going on?" "I don't understand anything." Shindo explains, "You're a farmer now, which means you can't fight until you level up and become a warrior." Yuto still doesn't understand, and they all stop together. Shindo then explains to him, "I was the first one to arrive in this strange world. It's a magical world where we play and complete tasks, just like in video games. I completed my first task, which was to kill a small monster. When Kozue arrived, we completed the second task together, which was to find the people living in this world. Now it's your turn to complete the 3rd task. The person with the severed head, who appeared to you, is called the Game Master. He was the one who asked me to team up with Kozue, and then he asked Kozue to bring you into the game as well. He also gave you tasks, like bringing more people into our group." After all this information, Yuto's brain is overwhelmed, but he starts to understand the situation bit by bit. Yuto doesn't have any weapons except for a large axe and a small axe, because of course his rank in the game is a farmer, so he doesn't have many weapons. After that, they pass by a glowing stone, and Shindo tells him that this is a point to record events. By touching it, you can see what happened in this place before. Yuto touches it, and memories appear. He sees Kozue when she first arrived in this world, crying and not understanding what was happening. When Shindo welcomed her, Kozue was very embarrassed. Shindo tells him, "When I first came to this world, I was very scared because I was alone. But when Kozue arrived, I started to feel a bit safer, and thanked God." Yuto says to them, "So now all we have to do is complete a few tasks to return to our world. That seems simple." But suddenly, the game's monsters appear in front of them. Shindo tells him, "Every time you kill one of these monsters, you level up, and your rank increases." Yuto takes out the small axe he has and attacks the monster with all his strength, but one of the monsters hits him with its club, easily breaking his weapon. Shindo says to him, "It seems like you're not much help to us." Yuto replies, "You're a sorceress, and she's a sword fighter." Shindo uses her staff to create a dust cloud that distracts the monster, and Yuto quickly attacks with his weapon. The monster hits him on the head again, but Yuto manages to embed his weapon in the monster's body, and they both fall to the ground. With that, Yuto has killed his first monster in this world. Yuto respawns after 30 seconds and asks, "What happens if all three of us die?" Shindo tells him, "If any of us die in the game, we'll wake up after 30 seconds. But if all of us die, we won't wake up, and we'll die in our real world too." Yuto is shocked and feels trapped. At night, they look at the game's map and realize they're still at the beginning. They agree to go to the village to find out what their request is and complete the new task. Shindo tells him, "If you complete the task, you can ask the Game Master one question, and he has to answer it. After my task, I asked him why he chose me, and he told me it was because someone we know asked him to. Kozue also asked him who they were, and he told her they were people from the future." Yuto says, "All right, I'll start my guard shift now," and stands guard. Suddenly, he hears screaming and rushes to see what's happening. He finds the place on fire, with Kozue lying on the ground, her arms cut off. Suddenly, a huge monster appears, holding Shindo, who tells him, "Run away quickly, Yuto. Kill this monster." The monster then eats Shindo right in front of him, and she dies. Yuto grabs Kozue's body and runs away. After a while, Kozue comes back to life, but her arm doesn't regenerate. She tells him, "It won't come back unless we kill the monster or retrieve the arm from its stomach." Yuto says, "So Shindo won't come back unless we kill the monster or retrieve her from its stomach?" Kozue says, "Yes." Yuto replies, "All right, we need to try to complete the task before fighting the monster so our ranks increase and we get stronger." They continue their journey and head to the nearby village. The villagers are very happy to see them. They then go to the village chief and ask about his request and the task they need to complete. The chief tells them, "My request is for you to kill a huge monster that has appeared near the village." The two of them are shocked because in order to complete the third task, they have to fight the very monster they've been running from. They are very discouraged, but Kozue tells him, "We have to go and save Shindo." Yuto says to her, "How are you a sword fighter if you're not helpful at all? Stay here in the village so you don't die, and I'll handle it." But the girl runs after him and says, "I want to help." Yuto says, "You can't come because if you die, we'll all die." He then goes off to look for monsters to kill and increase his rank and strength. He finds a group of monsters in front of him and kills them, increasing his rank. He then looks at Kozue's stats and wishes he were the sword fighter instead of her. At that moment, he realizes she has died and says, "How could I leave her in the village so she wouldn't die? What happened?" He runs back to the village and finds it burning. He thinks they've failed the task since the village is destroyed, but when he looks at their stats, he sees that Kozue has come back to life. He is surprised and keeps looking for the villagers, but can't find anyone. He then goes to the memory recording circle and sees Kozue talking to a small child. She says, "The truth is, I'm very sick with a serious illness, and I can't exert myself, or I'll die. But in your world, I don't feel the illness at all. My strength is increasing, and when I return to our world, I'll invent medicines to cure my illness and other diseases in the world." The girl then looks sad and says, "I'm not useful to anyone, but I try to help people and save them as much as I can." When Yuto hears this, he feels very upset because he wronged her. He also sees memories of the huge monster attacking the village and the people running away. At that moment, the monster appears behind Yuto, and he runs quickly, because if he dies, they'll all die. He keeps running until he finds a small monster and quickly kills it to increase his rank and strength. But as soon as his rank increases, time stops, and the monster freezes in place. The game master appears and says, "Congratulations, your rank has increased, and you've reached level 10. You now have the right to change your profession." He then spins the Wheel of Fortune, and Yuto hopes to become a warrior, but unfortunately, he becomes a cook. He is initially upset about the role, but says, "At least I might find a knife among my weapons." He then finds a knife, changes into his cook's outfit, and grabs the knife. He looks at the monster's body and can actually see its organs, one of the perks of being a cook. He knows where to strike, and when time resumes, he stabs the monster with the knife. The monster falls to the ground but doesn't die. At that moment, Shindo and Kozue come back to life, and a face emerges from the monster's stomach. Shindo says, "I didn't expect you to succeed in the task, but what are you wearing?" Yuto replies, "I became a cook, and the monster isn't dead yet." The monster prepares to attack them again, but it's clear that it's getting tired from the wound in its stomach. Yuto attacks the monster and tries to stab it with the knife, but its skin is too tough, and he can't penetrate it. The monster tries to hit Yuto and strikes the two girls, killing them, but they respawn. Yuto says, "Shindo, use your wind magic." He then foolishly charges at the monster and manages to stab it in the wound with the knife, but the monster throws him away. Shindo then jumps on its back and uses her staff to summon wind, confusing the monster. The monster falls, and the task is finally completed successfully. The game master then appears behind Yuto and says, "You can now ask me your question." Yuto is shocked, but had already prepared his question. He asks, "What will happen after we complete our task?" The game master shows him a video of his city in the future, destroyed and overrun by monsters. They then see a huge and dangerous monster, and suddenly, everyone returns to their real world. When Kozue returns, she feels wronged and says, "Are we supposed to fight that monster, or what?" Shindo says, "I don't know, but let's live our normal lives now and prepare to return to the game." Yuto then asks, "What will happen if we stay in our world?" Shindo tells him, "We'll all die." They look at the clock and realize that time is frozen, and they returned at the exact moment they left. They realize that time in the game is different from their real time, and they are essentially frozen in place. Shindo then asks Yuto to take Kozue home because she's tired and can't walk alone. As he walks, he looks at the city and says to himself, "I hate these people, but it seems like my main task is to save this city from destruction." That night, he continues to train and study the city's streets. Suddenly, the game master calls him and says, "Listen to the instructions I'm about to give you because this is your new task. You are now required to add a new girl to your group, and she's in a girls' school." Yuto goes there while talking to the game master and finds a group of girls bullying another girl. He managed to help her, and Yuto asks the girl, "What's your name? Why were those girls bullying you?" She says, "My name is Yuka, and they were bullying me because I make YouTube videos, and they're jealous and want to be like me." After a while, Yuto finds himself transported to the magical world and enters the game. This time, Yuka is with them, the same girl he saved. She is surprised by the place, which looks just like the game. The game master appears to her and gives her the instructions. He spins the Wheel of Fortune, and her role is revealed to be a fire sorceress. The Game Master tells them, "This time, if you die, you'll respawn after 40 seconds instead of 30. Your task is to deliver goods to a city called Radio City within 40 days. Good luck." The group prepares to complete their fourth task, but suddenly, a giant insect appears, releasing smaller insect-like creatures in the form of worms and throwing insect-like balls at them. One of the balls hits Yuto, and he dies. Yuka tries to use her fire magic, but her weapon is very weak because her rank is still low. She is overwhelmed and dies as well. Shindo and Kozue are hiding, and after 40 seconds, Yuto respawns. He takes out his knife and manages to hit the balls coming at him. The girls are very surprised by how much his strength and speed have increased. The giant insect then attacks him, and Yuto jumps on it, climbing onto its back. He takes out his knife and cuts its legs, asking Kozue to use her weapon. She grabs her sword and strikes the giant insect, killing it. Their ranks increase, and that night, while they're sleeping, Shindo sees Yuto training and sits with him. She holds his hand and says, "I'm not as strong as you think. I'm very weak and need your help to finish this game and return to our world." When Yuto sees her like this, he is deeply moved and promises to help her and never leave her. The next day, the group goes to the village destroyed by the monsters, but they don't find anyone there. They don't know what to do to reach Radio City or what goods they're supposed to deliver. Suddenly, a man on a horse appears, and the horse looks strange. They ask him about the location of Radio City, and he tells them it's very far away, at the end of the kingdom. He says they'll need 35 days to get there. The group is shocked, and the man tells them they'll need to use horses, because if they walk, it will take a year. Shindo then asks him to lend them his horse, but he says he can't because he needs it. However, he tells them there's a fighting competition happening in the nearby city, and the winner will get 3 horses. Yuto is very excited and decides to participate in the competition. On their way, they encounter a group of bandits. The bandits say, "These guys look like a group of heroes. If we kidnap them, we'll get a big ransom." One of the bandits attacks them, but Yuto dodges the attack. Suddenly, an image of the Game Master appears and tells Yuto, "Your rank has decreased because you're not allowed to attack humans." Yuto is shocked and doesn't know what to do. They quickly run away to escape the bandits, but the bandits manage to capture Shindo and Yuka. Yuto goes to participate in the fighting competition, but unfortunately, Yuka and Kozue are also captured, and it seems like the group is heading for a loss. Yuto, meanwhile, fights small monsters and manages to kill them, increasing his rank. The Game Master appears and spins the Wheel of Fortune, and Yuto becomes a sorcerer. He now has healing magic and can easily convince anyone of anything. Yuto then goes to the competition venue to participate and win the horses, but unfortunately, he loses and is killed in the first round. The girl who killed him is named Kahiya, the daughter of the city's king. Yuto goes to beg her and says, "Please, I need the horses in your city." The girl agrees, but on one condition. He must help them fight the many monsters. The group then goes to the city's leader, who agrees to lend them 1 horse. With the horse, Yuto and Kahiya go to rescue the girls. Yuto manages to save them, and Kahiya suddenly appears and says, "I'll get you more horses, but on the condition that I come with you and teach you how to fight with a sword. Since you can't die, I can kill you as much as I want, and you'll respawn." The group is shocked by her words and feels like her mind is a bit messed up. They begin their journey, encountering small monsters on the way, which they manage to defeat. They continue their journey and look at the map, realizing they have exactly 15 days and 5 hours left before the time runs out. Suddenly, they find a group of wolf-like monsters attacking people on the road. Kozue gets off the carriage and says, "I have to save these people. I won't let them die while I'm here." Yuto says to her, "How are you going to help? You can't do anything, and if we go to save them, we'll be delayed in completing our task." Kozue says, "I'm willing to sacrifice my life to save any human." When Yuto hears this, he is moved and says, "I'm with you." They get off the carriage and attack the monsters, but the monster strikes Kozue and bites her neck. Another monster hits Yuto's shield, sending him flying. Yuto then uses his persuasive magic and tries to convince the monster to look behind it, but the monster keeps attacking and refuses to listen. Yuto manages to stab the monster in the eye and is about to kill it, but the third monster kills Yuto. He is supposed to wait 40 seconds to respawn, but at that moment, the soldiers in the caravan attack the monster and kill one of them. Kozue's 40 seconds are also up, and she respawns. She sees Yuto running toward the monster, and the monster sees her too and attacks her. Kozue stands her ground and quickly wields her weapon, saying, "How long will I remain weak? How long will everyone keep saving me? I won't be weak anymore." The monster charges at her very quickly, and as it gets close, she draws her sword and stabs it, killing it. Yuto's 40 seconds are up, and the remaining monster attacks Kozue to kill her, but Yuto runs quickly toward the carriage. As he gets close, Kahiya appears behind him and cuts the monster's neck, finally killing it. Yuto then starts healing the injured people in the caravan, and the caravan leader appears and thanks him for what he did. Yuto asked, "Where are you going?" He replied, "We're going to Radio City to deliver 2 men and the child to be executed there because they disobeyed the king's orders." The group then thinks to themselves that the goods the game master wants them to deliver might be these people, or it might be a trap set by the game master to test them. They are faced with a choice: save the people from execution or complete the task. At that moment, Kahiya says, "The king who sent you is very unjust. He wants to kill innocent people just because they disobeyed his orders, and he doesn't want to kill them in their own city, but in another city, probably to establish his reputation and scare the cities he wants to conquer. I will never allow something like this." But the caravan leader says, "I know you, Kahiya. You're the leader of the knights in a small city. Your city is insignificant, and if you oppose the king, he will destroy your entire city." The two then prepare to fight, but Shindo stops them at the last moment. Yuto then gathers the girls and says, "The goods we're supposed to deliver to Radio City might be these people. In my opinion, we should go with them to Radio City, deliver the people there, and if the task is completed, then we'll save these people. If not, we'll save them anyway, and then look for the task." At that moment, the caravan leader's assistant says, "I don't think they needed to come with us." The leader says, "Don't worry. We need to deliver these prisoners to Radio City, and as for the heroes, I have a big surprise prepared for them." They start moving, and when the caravan stops to rest, Yuto asks the caravan leader to let him speak to the priest. When he talks to the priest, he asks, "Who are you, and why are you here?" The priest replies, "We are a group of people who have embraced a new religion. The king is very upset about this, and has killed many of us, burned our homes, and decided to execute us in Radio City, along with this child, to set an example for everyone. I don't want anything from this world, except for this child, to be saved from the execution." When Yuto hears this, he is deeply moved and understands everything that's happening. When they gather, Yuto asks the caravan leader, "Why do you want to kill these people?" The leader says, "Our king is very kind and wants to unite all the cities under his rule to spread goodness, peace, and justice. That's why I obey him." Yuto then thinks to himself, each of them has a convincing logic and believes that what they're doing is the right choice, but we don't know where this will lead us. Suddenly, Yuka says to the caravan leader, "Do you think we believe the nonsense you're saying? Any king who tries to conquer cities is just trying to improve his image in front of the people and appear as if he's spreading justice and goodness, but in reality, your king is a tyrant who might kill innocent people to achieve his goals. The simplest example is what he did to the priest." When he hears this, he gets angry and says, "I won't allow you to talk about our king in such a disrespectful way." Yuto and Shindo try to calm the situation and prevent any further discussion on the topic. Kahiya then trains with the sword and explains to Shindo how to use the weapon to defend herself. Meanwhile, Kozue tells Yuto, "We have 13 days and 1 hour left, and we still don't know what goods we're supposed to deliver or how to reach Radio City. They continue their journey until they reach a large mountain. The caravan leader tells them, "We need to pass through the middle of this mountain, but I know a shortcut. If we take it, we'll get there quickly." They start moving through the mountain's narrow passages, and one of Kahiya's assistants helps Yuto push their carriage. The assistant says, "I'm very happy to be with you on this journey. It's an honor to be by your side, hero." When Yuto hears this, he replies, "You're a very kind person." They continue their journey until they reach the bottom of the mountain and enter a cave. The caravan leader says, "This cave has metal tools that we need to use to open the path." The cave is a huge hall, and after they use the tools, water gushes out and gears start moving, revealing a stone path in front of them. But suddenly, the cave door closes behind them. The caravan leader appears from somewhere and says, "This is the end of the journey for you. We'll never travel with people who betray our king. Try to save yourselves and get out of here, although I doubt you can." The group is shocked because the task's time is almost up, and if they don't complete it, they'll all die. Yuto is the most shocked and doesn't know what to do. When they reach the stone path, Kahiya stops and says, "Let's start moving. Let's try to get out of here." They start moving, but they encounter giant hammers in a passage that seems impossible to cross. Yuto figures out the game and climbs to a high place where there are stones with symbols on them. He chooses one of the stones and starts moving them in different directions, and the hammer's movement slows down until they stop completely. They then move the carriage slowly to avoid slipping and falling off the path. Yuka is terrified, and they reach another passage. Yuto says, "It's clear that this passage is very dangerous, and we're supposed to walk through it." But as soon as he starts walking, a part of the path hits him, and he falls from a high place and dies. He respawns after 40 seconds and says, "I should have been more careful and realized that this wasn't going to be easy." Kozue then says, "I have an idea to get through here." She takes out a piece of paper and a pen and starts calculating the time between each wall. They figure out the correct timing, and Shindo starts walking through the passage, successfully crossing it. The girls all make it through and tell Yuto, "We'll move on and try to complete the task quickly. As for you, try to get out of here as fast as you can." Yuto tries to get out but fails. The girls then reach a large door, and when they open it, they find small monsters in front of them. They also see a huge statue attached to the wall, but they're surprised when the statue comes down and looks at them, ready to kill them. Meanwhile, Yuto is still trying to get out and finally succeeds, but he's very angry. He says, "I'll kill whoever trapped us here." He continues his journey and tries to walk through the area, but he can't see anything because of the darkness. He then finds a memory circle and touches it. He sees the girls standing and crying, with Kahiya's assistant dead in front of them. Yuto finds the man's body and remembers the memories they shared, feeling very sad. He says, "I won't let your sacrifice go in vain, my friend." He continues his journey through the cave, and the girls are being attacked by monsters. They start fighting, but the number of monsters is overwhelming, and the huge monster gets closer to them. They reach a circle in the middle of the passage and see a key hanging there. Kahiya says, "We need to get the key to open the door and cross to the other side." They attack the monster, and Shindo hits the bats, knocking them to the ground. But suddenly, the huge monster sinks its claws into Kahiya's body, and she falls into the water and dies. Shindo can't believe that Kahiya is dead. The monster then looks at her, and she's terrified because she knows she can't defeat it. As she runs back, she trips over a bat on the ground and dies. The monster also attacks her to kill her, but suddenly, time stops, and the monster freezes in place. Shindo remembers Yuto's words. When you reach level 10, time will stop, and the Game Master will appear, so you can change your profession. Shindo has reached level 10 after accidentally killing the bat. The Game Master appears and spins the Wheel of Fortune. Shindo remembers Yuto's advice. If time stops, use those seconds to attack the monster before it moves again. She runs toward the monster and strikes it with her sword, but its ribs are too strong, and she can't reach its heart. The monster uses its claws and strikes her, but she manages to save herself and quickly grabs her sword and shield. She then looks at the monster's body and sees that it's wounded. She remembers Kahiya's teachings on how to use the sword and says, "I need to strike specific spots to kill the monster." She locates the monster's heart and quickly tries to stab it, but the monster uses its claw and cuts off her arm. She escapes and climbs onto its back, holding her severed arm with the sword still in it, and stabs the monster in the heart. The monster finally dies. Yuto is running to catch up with the girls and finally arrives at the moment the monster falls to the ground. Shindo says, "You're very late. I managed to defeat the monster on my own." She also tells him that Kahiya is dead, and Yuto quickly runs and jumps into the water. He sees Kahiya lying on the ground, bleeding, and manages to save her. When she wakes up, she can't believe she's still alive. Kahiya's assistant tells her, "Yuto saved you from the water and managed to heal you, but he exerted a lot of effort and fainted from exhaustion." Kahiya looks at him and says, "Thank you for saving me," with a look of admiration and love in her eyes.